There's no such thing as institutional creativity. I think there's individual creativity. It all comes from here. That's it. That's the reservoir. It is in the brain. It is each individual capacity to create. And by the way, we all have it. We all can walk, we all breathe, and we all have inside of us the creative capacity. We just need to know two things. We need to know how to get it. We need the rigor and development in business creativity to understand that you've got to know the now before you get to the new. You just don't automatically, it's not, creativity is not like waiting for rain to happen. You got to work at it. You got to develop it. You got to be rigorous. You got to be analytical. You got to understand the problem. And then you've got to go through this process of being able to jump to the new. And it has a lot to do with recognizing patterns in the world, and applying pattern recognition to the kinds of solution you're searching for. Now, let me come back to the notion of the institution thing. The institutional creativity, to me anyway, is the ability of an institution to support, to encourage, to nurture, and create an environment where individual creativity takes place. That's when it happens. The second answer I want to say is this. When I was a young manager, about 10 or 15 years into the business, I realized that the creative department, and that's a terrible thing in an agency business to name a department creative. What does it say about the rest of the people? But in any case, I saw the art director and the writers. The writers could draw and the art directors could write. So I said to myself, what the hell do we need these people? Two of them attacking every problem? Think of the efficiency, folks. And then I soon began to understand what happens when two people start to work together. Somehow the way our brains are wired and work, it is often more helpful for not many people, but another or two or three people to be able to get together to think through the answer to a problem. And I have seen through experience creative acts happen more efficiently, more effectively, more consistently, brilliant when people get paired up. That doesn't deny the fact that Leonardo da Vinci paired up with no one, but he was Leonardo da Vinci. There are not many of those. But I think as computers, with the so-called fifth-generation computers that never happened, the theory behind them that they would address the problem from a lot of different dimensions at one time. So to some degree, there is that aspect of institutional creativity. But it all starts with the individual first, and an organization that says, that's what matters, that's what's important. There was another question. Yes, please, go ahead. Yeah.
So how does an organization balance the act between fostering creativity and yet meeting profits? So to me, fostering creativity means an environment of almost chaos, an environment that allows an enormous amount of failures, and yet you do get evaluated every quarter as an organization, you do get evaluated every year as an individual. So can you allow yourself to fail numerous times, so to be creative, and yet be rigorous, as you mentioned?
Let me start by saying it's not easy, but that's why you all are going to get paid the big bucks, to figure out how you do that. It reminds me of a apocryphal story. Apparently, a gentleman went to see Peter Drucker, a name you should know, and he said, Professor Drucker, he said, I'm here to figure out and ask you, how do you think I can make more money? And Peter Drucker looked through a lot of the papers and documents the guy gave him and so forth. He said, Mr. Schwartz says, you don't make money, you make shoes. And what he was trying to say is, the way you make money, the way you make your quarterly profits, the way you make any profits, is to make terrific products. And so don't think of creativity as not, I'm going to be creative over here and then I have to make money over here. No. What you do is to create a superior product. Remember the environment. It's a commodity environment. You have two choices. You either differentiate yourself or you compete on price. That's it. If you're able to become the low-cost producer, at a significant different advantage versus competition, then go that way. If you can't do that, then you better be able to differentiate yourself. And that's where the creative act happens. You have no choice but to use creativity to differentiate yourself. As I said, everything else is a commodity. So the only things you all have to understand is that if you don't create differences in the products, you're going to compete on price, whether you like it or not. In the global business, that's the new reality of the world. So I would urge you to say, find a way to not only create chaos, but to create organized chaos. Yes, you have to tolerate failure. But also you have to understand that the more you know, the more you prepare, the better you prepare. In fact, you're not taking huge risk. You're minimizing the risk. The risk, perception of risk is in the eyes of those people who are not prepared, who don't understand. But being different is not a risk. Being different, in fact, minimizes risk, doesn't enhance risk. That's at least the thesis that I purport. Other questions? Issues? Challenges?
You mentioned the importance of values for a successful corporation, and what occurred to me was one glaring exception, and that's Microsoft. Could you comment on sort of their values and how they might be evolving in the new environment?
Well, you know, I have to start by saying I'm not a student of Microsoft. Obviously, I know a bit about it. I've looked at them, but I'm not a student of it. I think Microsoft, the truth is, I think Microsoft has gone through many, many different stages and different incarnations. I like you to perhaps the best example is to just look at the life and the shifts in Mr. Gates. You had the guy who went in front of the commission. He couldn't remember his name. Remember he went to Congress and testified, and he couldn't remember this, and he couldn't remember that. He couldn't remember anything else. And all he wanted to do is to kill Netscape on anybody else that came in his way. I think in the end, if you look at how Mr. Gates behaves today, if you look at both what he does in business and outside of business, they make alliances. They never had alliances before. We could do it all. We'll conquer the world, all on my own. You know, master of the universe. I don't think he thinks that way anymore. I think he has changed. He has done extraordinary things to himself personally. That's what I was saying. I was saying the business person and the personal life and business life are becoming one. He and his wife have done some of the most extraordinarily positive contributions to mankind. What he's doing and has done in Africa is exemplary. So I would suggest to you that there's a transformational quality that is happening at the leadership of Microsoft that has and will continue to impact positively that organization to their own betterment. And I think they have discovered that, are discovering that. Consciously otherwise, I don't know. I suspect it's kind of seeping into it. But I think it's a different organization than it was 20 years ago. And for them to continue to succeed, you'll have to continue to do that.
We will have time for more questions outside. We have one more question, and then we'll call it a session.
I'd like to take that question. Mr. Georgescu, I'm trying to reconcile some of the things that you said initially in your speech with some of the points that you made later on in it. For instance, you touched on something which arouses significant apprehension to me as an American businesswoman, initially when you mentioned the competition that we're facing from India and China. Excuse me. But then later on you mentioned the importance of values as a strategic initiative, or just values as strategic intent and the importance of them. Yet I've noticed significant grievances regarding some of the allegedly competitive countries that you noted when it comes to human rights, duplicitous trade relations, things like that. And actually reminded me of a conversation that I had recently with an international businessman in a hotel in San Francisco. We were discussing America's core competitive advantages in the global economy. And I asked him, well, what real strength do we have as a nation going forward? What can we rely on to continue our successes? And he mentioned it's the freedom that we preserve and the human rights that we stand by and the integrity which we continue to demonstrate worldwide, or on a political level, at least according to some supporters of the nation. So I just wanted to sort of question the rivalry which you noted early in your...
Yeah, I understand where you're going. It's fascinating, and I believe that the combination of creativity and values is the lethal weapon in the free enterprise competition of the future. The two of them kind of go hand in hand. Values really are supportive of creativity. And I think that's what's going to make us really very successful over time. And in fact, it is that combination that will become the strength of America's ability to compete. That's exactly right. And I think that the developing countries, which really don't have the tradition of, as you said, respect for the individual, respect for freedom, and respect for values, are going to have their problems over time. And that is the best possible solution for America. And if we choose to internalize this, I will tell you that one of the privileges I've had as a advertising executive, meaning in the service business, coming across many nations, the vast majority of American business is honest. Categorically, I'll tell you, the sample of hundreds, if probably thousands of people I've come across in my 37-year career, they're honest, hardworking people who really want to do the right thing and work hard to do the right thing. That also goes for Arthur Andersen people. The vast majority for Arthur Andersen people were terrifically good, hardworking people. They were absolutely sold down the river by a few in the leadership. So I think that's part of the ethos of American business, and I think it will serve us well. And I think that if we're wise, we'll understand the power of that. It's not a nice thing to do. It's not just nice to be a good person. It is a business strategy. And understand the power of that when you think and you begin to create the kind of creative environment that's essential for us to compete and do it continuously on a sustained basis over time. So I suggest the combination of those two things represent America's best answer.
Yes, I suppose that in short, I just want to challenge your initial statements, and I think Americans can be confident going forward in the global economy.
I have 3 granddaughters. I want their standard of living to be at least what we've had. But the only way to get there is to do this. The challenge is not going to be less. The challenge is humongous. We will be the underdogs. Remember this. They're bigger than us. They'll produce more quality products than we. They'll produce it cheaper. But if we can harness the power of creativity and the power of values, I think we'll be able to differentiate more, and value differentiation will produce higher profits, higher prices, higher margins, higher profits. That's how it's going to work. Thank you very much. I hope it works for you.